Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto Byte. Today is Wednesday, December 22nd. We've got some exciting stuff to talk about today. Some very interesting price action in some of the altcoins over the last 24 hours here. Some of that on the back of some news pieces that hit. But overall, the market is actually looking somewhat strong today. Bitcoin saw some nice positive price action last night. We'll talk about that as well as a few more news pieces that I'd like to hit before we dive into things here today. CJ, how are you doing?
It's nice to wake up to some green, my friend, as I'm sure a lot of you guys probably feel the same. Phantom, Near, Solana, Luna hitting like $96 last night. So crazy, interesting market. Excited to break it down, look at some opportunities, and discuss what's going on. So I'll
Yeah,
pass it on.
absolutely. And one thing, CJ, that's been kind of interesting about today's price action is that, over the last week, we've seen some of those assets that have been continually making new all-time highs, like Luna, AVAX, those layer one players continue to make new all-time highs, while other assets have shown continued weakness. But today we're seeing, both ends of that spectrum see strength. We're seeing assets like, Atom and Dot that have been more or less pulling back since their tops in November, starting to show some strength. Also, we have assets like Matic, entering into new all-time highs here as we are live on this show. So some very interesting stuff. But I want to hit you with a news piece here, CJ, to start off today's show, because this is one that when I saw it, I immediately thought of you, because I know you've been, heavily researching the Near protocol and also, the Terra ecosystem. Worlds are colliding here a bit, and that's resulted in some very positive price action for the Near token, jumping 20% after that UST integration. CJ, tell us a little bit about this headline here.
Well, Near is trying to become more blockchain friendly and interoperable to the Terra ecosystem, UST stablecoin, of course. So to see the price action really come as a result is not a huge surprise, but it's just really great to see these fundamental developments between the Terra ecosystem and the Near ecosystem. Two of my favorites, definitely in the DeFi world. I think probably my third favorite in that list is Phantom. Just when it comes to the usability, ease of use, enjoyment, and fast tech that has been created. So the interesting thing about Near, why I was a little skeptical about it, is because it has taken a more centralized approach. I do compare them somewhat to BNB in the sense that they're not really, they're kind of moving fast and breaking things as opposed to waiting for permission, so to speak. So I think that many U.S. exchanges, like Coinbase, probably won't list them in the anytime future. Nevertheless, we're still on KuCoin and Crypto.com, as well as Binance and a lot of Asian exchanges. And with that $800 million ecosystem development round, obviously that does add a little bit of sell pressure to the macro trend. But overall, when I think you consider the growth and the development that ecosystem grant will actually provide, I think Near ecosystem has a very bright future, and there's a lot that's going to be developed on it very soon. So interesting to see that headline. Also up 20% today, so good thing for the Near holders. But back to you, Monty.
Yeah, thank you for that, CJ. It's going to be really fun to watch kind of the Near protocol develop and grow here over the coming months. I mean, in just the last couple of weeks here, we've seen some very significant developments. So it's been enjoyable to watch, and we'll continue to monitor that. Go ahead.
This is a good segue into this next chart I have, since we're on the topic of Near. But I was looking through the Najarian research report for a couple times, and decided to reference this particular chart. That was on the first chapter of the actual report. But you can see this is a breakdown of the most commonly held assets by crypto funds in Q3 of 2021, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. And interestingly enough, you would assume, Luna, Solana would be the top ones. Obviously, they are in here, but they're, sixth and seventh, as opposed to, first, which is Polkadot, which interestingly enough has been one of the worst performers within the last 3 to 4 weeks. I know a lot of people have been disappointed in Polkadot's performance, but overall we have Polkadot leading at number 1, Near Protocol coming in at the second most commonly held altcoin by crypto funds. And then we have Oasis Network and Luna coming in at 4th, no surprise there. But also Rweave. This is a cryptocurrency that I think not a lot of people have gone into or heard about, yet it is very important for the underlying architecture behind cryptocurrencies with proof of history like Solana. So just to talk about Rweave, like very briefly, the reason why it exists and the benefit that it provides is that it will store Solana's transaction data. In order to have 50,000 transactions per second, they leverage Rweave's technology to be able to store that data in a better place. And we have seen a correlation between Rweave as well as Solana. It'll be interesting to see if other blockchains that follow a similar type of proof of history consensus mechanism choose to use Rweave as well. But when you look at the major data storage providers like Rweave, Filecoin, and then storage, obviously those are really the big 3 of that category right now. But before I go any more tangents, let's get back on track. Monty, what do you have for us, my friend?
No, that was a really good tangent. Thank you for that, CJ. And yesterday, you shared that kind of 10 things to look for in a token. And one of those, I think, is, they're all important, but one of those that you talked about is kind of the role in which it plays in the ecosystem. And, it's so important to analyze like the role that Rweave is playing relative to the role that SRM is playing or something like that. Because although they exist within the same ecosystem, they serve very different purposes, and that is reflected in their price action. So good stuff there. Thank you for sharing that. One thing that I wanted to quickly talk about, another news related article here. This one's a little bit more bearish, but this is about the CME and the micro ether futures. So they've traded 100K contracts in the first 2 weeks, which is actually a relatively slow start for the CME. When you compare it to what we saw for the Bitcoin futures that launched on May 3rd, that was a very, very different scenario in terms of the amount of futures that we saw traded after immediately following the launch. So the ETH futures are off to a bit of a slow launch here, but I think that's, just speaking to the fact that right now, much of the price action in this market is being driven by, retail participants. We're seeing price action in, these major layer ones like, AVAX, Luna, Solana with their bolstering DeFi ecosystems. And, that's typically indicative of retail participation. Right now, we're, ETH and Bitcoin, the big boys, and even, CJ pointed out how the most held asset by funds is actually, Polkadot. I think it's interesting to note that, there is sort of this relationship between this slow moving nature of these high cap, institutionally focused assets, and then, the fast moving nature of these, more retail focused assets. So, seeing that ETH futures tradings are kind of slow right now isn't too surprising given this, price action that we're seeing now, given the time of year that we're seeing. And if you compare it to, when the Bitcoin futures launched, they launched on May 6th. So that was right here during a very turbulent, couple weeks of price action. So obviously there was a lot of volume traded in the subsequent 2 weeks as we, massively corrected here. ETH is in a different spot right now. So I don't think it's too alarming that those futures contracts are just off to a slow start. I do expect them to pick up after the holiday and into the start of the new year. And perhaps that could be a potential catalyst for some positive ETH price action. But thought that article was just worth bringing to your attention. I saw some people talking about it in our community, but I'll pass it back to you, CJ.
No, thanks, Monty. Really good stuff there. Yeah, I guess we should just finish here with a little bit of Bitcoin analysis. Just see where we are in terms of the charts and indicators. As we had discussed, we have bullish divergences both on the RSI and MACD that are first starting to play out right now, which is quite interesting. Also, one thing to keep in mind as we get, not to get too excited after, the bullish price action, not only in Bitcoin, but in the altcoins especially, we still do have a very strong support level, or excuse me, we have a strong resistance level at 50 to 53K, coming down from, not only that descending trend line, but also the 50 smooth moving average, as you can see right there. And if we take a look at what happened last time, we had really consolidated and then went up to test that moving average. We were sternly rejected and then continued with a few more weeks of bearish price action. That was the bottom. We didn't go much lower. However, it was a little bit of a fake out in the interim. So despite the fact that I do think that this rally is very authentic and very real, we have to be cautious and remember what has happened historically when the trend has gone back up and tried to test this level, because even in our short term, it still does continue to act as resistance. Nonetheless, if you like this video, please hit that like button and consider subscribing. If you'd like to hear more about our insights and what Monty and I trade personally and have in our portfolios, make sure you check out the link in the description below. You can try the first week for just $7. We really appreciate that, guys. Monty, I'll leave it with you, my friend.
Thank you, CJ. And as always, thank you to Voyager for sponsoring this show. If you guys are looking for a crypto brokerage to hold or trade your crypto, we recommend you check out Invest Voyager, where you can earn up to 20 or 12% interest on US or on DOT and 10% on USDC. Apologies about that. But if you guys sign up over there, use code Rebel25 when you do for $25 in crypto. But that's all we got for today. We'll also be doing our member webinar that will be live at 11:30 Central Time. If you guys would like to join that, ask any questions, drop any tickers that you guys would like us to do some technical analysis on, that will be at 11:30 Central. We'll post a link in chat right before that happens. Then, as always, we'll be doing our members only Doge of the day right after this. But have a great rest of your day. We'll see you guys at the webinar. Take care, everyone.